Welcome back to the Conscious Entrepreneur Podcast, where we explore the journeys and philosophies of today's most inspiring leaders. I'm your host, Alex Raymond. Today, we're hearing from Sadie Lincoln, the visionary behind barre. With over 190 franchise locations, Sadie has transformed the fitness industry, focusing not just on physical health, but on creating a powerful sense of community and connection. Her innovative approach to fitness has earned her numerous accolades, including being named Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year for the Mountain West. But beyond the awards and growth, Sadie's mission is a deeply personal one. She's addressing a critical issue in our society today, the epidemic of loneliness. In this episode, Sadie shares her journey from feeling isolated as a new parent to building a global community dedicated to connection and empowerment. We explore how barre is not just about workouts, but about fostering meaningful relationships and supporting women entrepreneurs. Join us as we uncover how Sadie Lincoln is redefining fitness, building communities, and combating loneliness one barre class at a time. Hey, Sadie, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, you have built barre into a really impressive organization with over 191 franchises around the country. And you yourself have been recognized for the growth and for the impact that you're having. Congratulations on being recently named Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year for the Mountain West. So this is a tremendous achievement, and it really speaks to the innovation and the model that you are bringing with barre. And I know that one of the critical elements to that was rethinking the relationship with fitness. So I've heard you say before, it's not so much that fitness itself is broken. It's more, how do we respond to that? What's our relationship with fitness? And I'd love to start off with just understanding how you see that and how that's contributed to the barre journey.
Yeah, thank you. Well, lovely to be here. I have said in the past, and I'll say it again, that fitness is not broken. The act of exercising, and I think all fitness modalities are powerful. The actual act of, when you study it, like in a lab, we know that fitness is good for us. And when I started my career in fitness over 30 years ago, it was more about educating the mass consumer about that. Now we all know that. But what's interesting is that even though we know that in our minds and in our hearts, like we know that exercise is good for us, there's still a barrier for a lot of people. And that barrier is more of a psychology. And I believe that the dominant narrative of fitness, how we've sold fitness over the years, has contributed to shame and a poor, weak relationship with fitness, because how we've marketed fitness, with good intentions or not, is that if you do fitness, you can be something other than you are today. You can be an imagined ideal either in the future, or like with a new mom, you're going to bounce back and be something you were before having a child. Both of those things, going back in time or going forward in time, are impossible. The only thing we can do is be present. And what's happened is we exercise to get to that ideal, and we don't get there because it's literally impossible. What we've done at barre is really infuse essentially principles of mindfulness into fitness, that we are exercising with one objective, and that's to be present and honest in our bodies in the moment of exercising. And not exercising to get somewhere, but exercising to be right here in our bodies as they are and honor our bodies. And when we do that, what we've definitely proven over the last 16 years, but even after one workout, exercising this way, I encourage any listener to try this, to exercise being present, is that you build a healthy relationship with your body and exercise. Because when you're exercising in a way that's present, you're exercising in a way that honors your body and honors yourself. And then fitness becomes something who you are, like that becomes a part of you, versus something you visit or something you have shame around or something you have pain around. It truly becomes kind of an inherent way of life. And that's really our vision and mission at barre, is to teach people to be balanced in body and empowered from within when it comes to exercise.
And even the number 3 refers to strength, cardio, and mindfulness as sort of an all-around program, as opposed to I'm just going to go lift a bunch of weights, or I'm just going to go to a yoga class, or whatever. So saying, hey, these are all the ingredients that are needed for success and health.
Yeah, strength, cardio, and mindfulness. And I would infuse mindfulness in everything. It is a practice, it is a muscle. We are so distracted. We practice being distracted all the time. And we're really good at that. Whatever it is we practice, we become. My good friend Don Napani gave me that quote. He's a mindfulness teacher. And it's really true. We really do practice being stressed in the world. We practice multitasking a lot. We practice not being focused. We practice beating ourselves up a lot. But we can really unwind that story and practice something that's more purposeful, more enriching, and honestly more results oriented when we practice being present.
Absolutely. Now, I know that one of the main motivators around Bar 3 and for yourself is fighting loneliness. And we know that there's this loneliness epidemic here in the U.S. And it's sort of famously coined by the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, who says there's this loneliness epidemic. And when we get into the data around that, it's really pretty shocking. So the idea here is that loneliness and isolation can have really severe consequences. The data shows a 29% increase in the risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, and 50% increased risk of developing dementia. Loneliness is also linked to depression and other mental health challenges. So this is a big deal. And it's not some kind of throwaway comment, right? They're like, oh, loneliness is a thing. This is infused in our culture today. And a lot of people are saying, hey, enough is enough. We want to be doing something about this. Tell us about how both you personally and Bar 3 think about fighting loneliness.
Yeah, all that data is affirming for me. It frankly makes me feel less lonely because 16 years ago, when my husband and I set out to start Bar 3, that was a quiet conversation we had together. We were lonely as a couple. We were new parents. We had 2 young children. We didn't feel like we belonged really. And we didn't have a sense of community or connection. We don't belong to a church. We didn't have a sense of like connection and community. And so one of our, things we did was scratch our own itch, and we created our very first studio, Bar 3, right here in Portland, Oregon, in the Pearl District, honestly, to solve that problem for ourselves. Like, we wanted to build a warm, inviting community that we could be a part of. And it was so beautiful to have that intention. And over like the first year of opening our studio, we started to be more verbal about that and talk about it and connect with clients that way. And as soon as we opened that conversation, we realized we were not alone, that many people needed that. They needed an invitation. They needed a container. They needed to know that was the purpose of what we were doing. And as soon as we gave that invitation and purpose, it lit up. And that, that one of our mantras at Bar 3 is that relationships matter more than exercise when it comes to our health and well-being. We said that in 2008. And when I saw the numbers come through with the Surgeon General's report, and over the past like 3 to 5 years, there's been a lot more data around this. It was just affirming, because it's something I think a lot of us knew in our like instincts and our kind of our inner selves, but to see the data, that loneliness is like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And the other thing I would say about loneliness is it's a big word. And I don't know, like, if I would have, I think Chris and I really literally said we were lonely, but I didn't feel lonely because I had friends and family, but I think a lot of people are lonely and they don't even really know it, until they find a connection, until they find that sense of community and involvement. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much more energy. I feel so much more alive. I feel like I matter, so I think sometimes it's peeling back the onion and kind of investigating that is a real individual experience.
And community is a big word too, right?
Yeah.
So loneliness is a big word. Community is a big word too. It gets bandied about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How is so really specifically, how is my experience at a bar three part of a community? How does it really help me?
Well, number one, when I first opened my studio, I remember thinking about that because I came from a big gym chain and there were a lot of initiatives for like customer service. We've never used the word customer service because it feels like a corporate initiative versus something that's coming from a human, you know? Um, and so when I remember, I was like, I really thought about it. Like when a new client would walk in, I really took note of her little girl and like that she had a cute little barrette or something. And I would send her a note after class, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming to class. Where did you get that cute little bow in her hair? I want one for my daughter. Or like, I would just make it more like I'm not just this businesswoman. I'm actually someone that cares about you and we're sort of the same. And, yeah, let's exercise together, but I really want to also have a conversation with you. And that, I mean, from a kind of now we have 191 studios. So we say things like we're hyper local, but because we are. So what we've done is we've grown to 191 studios and every one of those studios is owned and operated by a woman who shares my same vision and values and purpose, but brings her own true self to the equation. And she's behind the desk of her own studio. She's teaching classes in the lobby. It's not about me, Sadie Lincoln, anymore. It's about her and her conversation with the clients. But again, we've invited that. We have one of our founding principles is borrowed from the Danny Meyer group. Actually, it's enlightened hospitality. And it's really about how we treat each other as team members, all the in-between moments versus, kind of the first welcome to bar three moment, all the little in-between moments, like at the water station when you're filling a water bottle, like that's a moment of magic. When someone's deep cleaning the studio and there's a few clients around, that conversation's a moment of magic. We invite that and talk about that a lot and how that impacts our clients' well-being. And, it is something we talk about and train on, but it really is more magical when it happens more like organically and locally in each studio.
Well, that enlightened hospitality sure is a critical word, and it's a critical way of thinking about it in terms of what's the customer experiencing. They are experiencing hospitality. It's funny. I was just telling someone recently about my gym, and I was like, if only the people who worked here and ran this place understood that they're in the hospitality business, that there's nothing wrong with, my particular issue this day was like, nobody's greeting me by name. I've been going to this gym for 10 years. Like, they don't know who I am. And there's just like this grumpy kid behind the check-in counter, and I'm made to swipe a card, even though I've been there, 5 times a week since forever, and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
What are the other values and guiding principles behind the company then?
There is nothing more powerful than remembering someone's name. And what I will say for anyone listening, if you are a gym operator or a studio operator, or you have a consumer business like that, it's never too late to ask. Hey, you've been coming here 5 years. I can't believe I'm asking you this, but can you remind me of your name? I feel so close to you. I know you. And for whatever reason, your name is slipping my mind right now. Like, it is never too late to ask. It's also never too late to say, am I pronouncing your name right? It's really important to me to pronounce your name right. So, that is, a powerful thing. I have a little story about that. When I was, actually taking yoga in the early years of opening bar three, I was taking 6 a.m. yoga in my own little neighborhood to pour into myself and to be anonymous and not be the owner of a studio. And one of the mornings, her name is Shani, the instructor at the time. We had all been going for a while, and it's 6 a.m. So no one's talking in the morning. But one closing, as we were sitting there and closing Shavasana, she said every single person's name in the class. She just said our names, and it was so powerful. I will never forget it because I'm like, she remembers, like, there were maybe 27 of us in that class and she remembered everybody's name. And that, truly, boosted my feeling of like health and well-being, just as much as all the chaturangas we did earlier in the class. But, so I share that story a lot with our team because it really is powerful.
Mm-hmm. That's super special. What are the other kind of values of the company or the principles that you're using besides enlightened hospitality?
Well, my husband and I have guiding principles as founders that we developed as a way to, in a way, it's like the things we always think about and we will always care about. And in a way to like solidify that with our leadership team and kind of tell them, if you're doing these things, you just know these are the things we really care about. And the rest, we really want to empower you to just go. Like, but we're always going to ask you about these things, right? Enlightened hospitality is one of them. The other one is always remembering the foundation of our company. What comes first? Prioritize that first, and then everything else can fill in. But when we get distracted, that's when it becomes problematic. And for us, the first thing that is the most important to us is teaching remarkable, heart-centered classes in our studios exceptionally well. And so always focusing there. If we're jumping to all these other things and that's not happening, everything's going to be harder. So that's something, and that really goes client first. Like that's why people care about us, is that we're teaching that class, and to never ever forget that. And oddly, you can forget that. It's a thing. Our vision, mission, values always need a ladder up to our vision, mission, values. And then thoughtful beauty is something we've coined, and that's about the power of designing experience around community and connection. I really do believe that natural light is important, for example. So when our owners are picking studios, we find natural light that can shine into the studio. That changes the experience. It's really important where you put the watering station for our reusable. Where do you put? We think these things through. Like where do you put that, and how can we make that a moment of connection and delight? And that goes for everything, our brand, our colors, our photography. We don't Photoshop, but we have great lighting in our photo shoots. We, just really being thoughtful about everything. And again, that's an invitation to elevate our standards, but with purpose behind it, not just because we want to be like high flutin' tootin', it's more because we really want to express ourselves in a powerful way. And then the last one is workplace awesomeness. That's what we call it. And everything I just talked about, vision, mission, values, foundation first, always remembering who we are, enlightened hospitality, thoughtful beauty. If you deliver on all those things, it creates workplace awesomeness, because everybody feels taken care of. They have an inspiring place to work. They have a reason for being, a clear vision, mission, and purpose. And for us, our key constraint to growth is being able to attract amazing human beings who can make us better, and who are aligned with everything I just talked about and are excited to be a part of what we're doing.
I mean, this is totally different from any conception that anyone has of a corporate gym, right? And sort of these, big box places where you just come in and sweat it out and leave, and it's all very impersonal. And it's kind of like the Costco or Sam's Club of health and fitness versus something very, very boutique. Now, you mentioned before, Sadie, that all 191 of the Barre 3 studios are both owned and operated by women. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the motivation behind this business model. Like, how did you decide this is what we want to do versus, say, controlling them all, or having a different approach to that? And then what are you doing to support and empower these entrepreneurs, because that's what they are, once they join the family?
It's sort of in my DNA. I grew up in an alternative environment. My mom and her women friends, her best women friends, were single moms, and they raised us collectively. And just that value embedded in me, that this idea of collective wisdom, and that everybody can bring something really unique to the table to support a greater good, and to nurture, people's wellness and health. And so the idea of franchising with other women was just like, duh, of course I have to do that. I don't want to manage managers. I want to partner with women. And I want it to be authentic. And I came from a gym culture that was 430 gyms, amazing company, and the stand-up job, but it's just different. when you've put skin in the game, you've put your life savings into owning your own Barre 3 studio, you obviously care deeply enough to change your life that profoundly. And so there's that commitment, and then there's the authenticity. So when someone walks into that studio, they're meeting the owner, the person who has put her life on the line to deliver an experience for them. And that still charges me to this day. It's so exciting for me. One of my favorite parts of my job is when I get to connect with our owners and just see what they're bringing to Barre 3 in their own way. And I'm kind of like making us better because of it. And that we have the same, even though I'm in obviously a different role, I don't feel lonely because I have all of them. I'm an owner too. We all go through the same things with recruiting, training, hiring, client issues, HR, stuff, but also like HVAC issues and facility stuff, all the stuff that's about balancing being a mother and being a professional, trying to make time for friends, and getting a good night's rest. We're all kind of in it together. Also being a public figure, they're all public figures as well. Like, I'm really letting go of this attachment a lot of us have to like look the part, and to be perfect and to be awesome all the time. We talk about things like that. So I really do. I feel like I have a network of support, rather than a bunch of managers. And yeah, it's really done well for us. And it also helped us through COVID. This model has proved to be a resilient strategy for us.
So tell us about how you navigated COVID, because I know that so many gyms had extreme stress, and so many went out of business, and it was just a real mess for so many in the health space. What was special about your model?
First of all, it was extreme stress, and it was a real mess. 100%. Every single day. So hard. Incredibly challenging. Boutique fitness, 30% of boutique fitness studios permanently shut. And we had some closures too, which were painful. Every single one sucked. That being said, we were incredibly powerful. We actually grew in units during the COVID years. But the main reason why we were successful is because our owners had forged such meaningful relationships with their clients. They knew their clients' names. They knew them so well that they were able to keep those clients were like, please, I'll go to Zoom. I'll watch you in your living room with your kids running all over the place. I need to continue to be a part of this community. I need to continue to move in my own body with you in your living room, and I'll be in my living room, we were real, I would say scrappy, and super committed to fighting lonely in the loneliest era of our lives. And also, I will give a massive, huge shout out to my leadership team. Unbridled optimism about our recovery. Our thing was, we kept saying, it's not our people, it's not our product, it's the pandemic that's taking us down. Because every day we had to remind ourselves that we're not wrong. Like, the reason our numbers are declining so quickly is because of a pandemic. And it's not because we're not relevant anymore. And we had to remind ourselves that every single day. I know I did. I was so worried. Even though logically I'm like, no, it's because of a shutdown. It's because we literally can't run our business like we usually do. But we did that. And the team, not only had that optimism, they ended up, innovating and testing and launching 3 new class formats. We had never done that in the history of Barre 3. We'd only had the Barre 3 signature class, which combines strength, cardio, and mindfulness. And they did a drill down on strength. So it's a B3 strength, B3 cardio, B3 mindful flow. They not only just kind of kept things going, they gave our clients a deeper experience. And that kind of work ethic and commitment, I'm just so thankful for them, because I was scared. I didn't know if we should do that. I was the more risk adverse person, which is a real turn of events, because it was usually me, pushing. But this time I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? But I trusted the team. My husband did too, and they did a phenomenal job. And we're now cruising. We acquired 22 bar studios recently. The Barcode, amazing group of owners that are now part of Bar 3. Our studio business is up 27% year over year from last year. So yeah, feels good to be on the other side.
So tell me about what are the attributes or the profile of your best entrepreneurs, of the people who come in and their studio thrives and their community thrives and their KPIs and metrics are all looking good. Like, what does someone like that look like? What skill set or talents are they showing up with?
It's really interesting because it's pretty diverse. Like, it's not something that's like, we can just say, oh, the best owners come from finance, or they come from education, or because we have all of that, or we're stay-at-home moms for many, many years and came back into the workforce. But I will say with for sure, the things we know are the owners who authentically relate to the brand, and the owners who had their own lives change because of Bar3 and were maybe a client or an online subscriber, or really resonate with our vision, mission, and values. So that really helps. The owners who want to be a part of a franchise system and understands what a franchise system is. And there's a cost to that as an entrepreneur. And the thing that you have to let go of is complete control, because you're doing something for the greater good. So the owners who are excited about all of us coming together and being a louder voice to change the dominant narrative, and remembering that every day that we're all together doing this, they are more successful. They lean into all of our tools and programs, our digital business, really love being a part of the brand. And kind of understand, and it's a psychology that a rising tide lifts all boats. It's not just about the one studio. It's about what we're all doing collectively. Certainly. But being business minded, understanding business, or having that kind of network. And then lastly, I would say those who have a practice of being self-aware as a leader. And that's a continuous practice. And knowing where they are strong and where their unique skill set is, and then letting go other than that, and empowering and recruiting and training and keeping the people around them who fill where they're not strong. And that requires not micromanaging, not being fear-based, letting people fail, because that all ends up being workplace awesomeness. Like, I sure want to work for someone like that, who's going to let me fail and who doesn't micromanage me. That's certainly something, we've seen across the board as a successful owner.
Just as a total side note, I want to share, I know nothing about how franchises work. Mm-hmm. Do they like interview with you? Do you select people? Do you say no to some people, and you have sort of criteria lists about the people you say yes to and the people you say no to? Is that how it works?
Yeah. And we say no to most people, because it's really important upstream, when you partner with a franchisee, that you are truly partnered. And I've said this before, but you can't fire a franchisee. Like, it's that you are partnered. And, really having that clear communication upstream and a real understanding of it. So the franchisee, how it works is a franchisee comes in, they pay the initial fee to become a franchisee. And that includes all of the branding, marketing, facility support, training, product, a territory, a locked territory. And then every month, a percentage of their gross revenue goes to the franchisor, to us at the headquarters. And then we support them along the way, with National Marketing Fund and training and development and all the things. And it's really great for people who haven't been in the industry, who don't have that knowledge, or haven't taught a bar class like we teach, because you get all that support. And you also get what the highest ranked value of being a franchisee at Bar 3 is their peers. They have all these other women that are also franchisees. And we happen to be 100% women owned and operated. There's a lot of connection that happens there between all of them and shared learnings. but it can be hard, like to all of a sudden, hear, oh, we did a study and it's better for across the board for clients to have their first class free, for example. And so, and it's better for us to be able to say that in a loud way nationally. And some owners were like, but I don't want to give away my first class free. I don't need to. I'm losing money there, but because that's something that we as a franchisor have the legal right to say, no, we're going to do this across the board, that can be challenging. That can be really challenging. But overall, I think communication and really being able to vent and like express, when things aren't well, and for us to really listen to that. And, that kind of like ongoing dialogue has helped that kind of con of being a franchisee.
Great. Thanks for plugging some knowledge gaps there for me about how that works. I want to shift now, Sadie, to understand your journey. So you founded Barre 3 with your husband, Chris, in 2008. It's now grown to be quite a sizable business. Tell us about your journey from founder into CEO, right? There's a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us about what have you learned about yourself along the way?
Well, there is nothing like starting your own business and scaling it to learn about yourself. I mean, this has been the most humbling journey of my life. It continues to humble me. I would say when I kind of made a turn was when I started to look at running a business that way, that this is a practice of self-investigation and of being my higher self and learning when I'm not my higher self, and then picking myself back up, brushing myself off, and getting better and better in that way. And there's just so many phases. I mean, in the beginning, I was doing everything. I taught 19 classes a week, cleaned the studio. My husband was holding babies in our childcare area. Like, we were doing everything, right? There was no even thought of like CEO. It was just product. I was 100% dedicated. Then training my first team, empowering my first team, and then years of letting go, and that was challenging because what I built in the beginning was highly successful. And so the ego side of me was like, well, I better hang on to it then, or it won't be successful. This is connected to me. And so figuring that out over time, that's not sustainable and it's not true. Like, I do believe in collective wisdom. Like, these other people that came in and made my instructor training so much stronger, my operations processes so much better, our enlightened hospitality magnified, but I had to let those people do it in a way that was uncomfortable to me first. And that was humbling. Then there was the phase of me being a public figure and getting like big time on the stage. And that was so exciting to me. I never thought that could be me. But that ended up robbing me of delight. I did not actually enjoy it. There was a phase where I was being recruited and I would say edited by producers and that kind of thing, telling me to lose weight and look the part and say it this way and say it that way. And this is how you market. If you really want to be the number one bar person, you need to do these things. And I took the bait. I tried it on for size and it took me down to my knees. It was one of the hardest eras of my life at Barre 3. And it also made me feel really lonely. The more I was on the world stage, the weaker my connection with my team became.
Okay, so this is people picking up on the fact that, hey, we've got this cool, charismatic person who's running a successful business. Let's pluck her out and create the story about Sadie Lincoln and look all the great things that you've done. Build your quote unquote personal brand.
Yes.
Get out there, speak at conferences, come on cool podcasts like The Conscious Entrepreneur, and much bigger ones like Rich Roll's podcast and stuff like this. So this is all part of kind of propping you up as a person, and that didn't work for you.
The thought leadership, like this stuff I found is authentic to me. It's so true. It's like, it feels like my inner wisdom. It is my inner wisdom. What was really hard for me was more like I had a producer that we did DVDs in Target. That's when DVDs were still around, all of Target. And when I went through that process, it was really shaming and hard on my body image. And then I wrote a book for a big publisher that was already, they just found me. They already had the book title. They had the idea of it because barre was trending. They just needed to find a barre celebrity to plug into the concept. And so I kind of just plugged in, and they photoshopped me almost beyond recognition for some of the ads. And yeah, those things allowed me to go to New York City and be on stages and be on, things. And I was on the Dr. Oz show back in the day and that kind of stuff. And we were doing a lot of stuff in my kitchen. Like I was making recipes, and I was so insecure on the inside. I think I was a pain in the butt to be around because of it, for my team. I'm self-aware about that. It was a hard era. And that was also the era when we were growing and the team was becoming really, really close. And I have learned this, frankly, in therapy, but I really did need this team as my family or friendship circle. And I realized, that's not healthy. My friendship circle and my family needs to be outside of barre 3. I don't need to put that pressure on my team. But I was doing that subconsciously and I didn't know it. And that wasn't healthy. And the more they saw me as more of a public figure, I think I just got I felt pushed out of my own company. I felt like my own team kind of pushed me to the side. And that wasn't the case. They're just being normal team members. But that's how I felt. And so that was a hard stage that was one of the hardest stages of leadership. But when I brought in coaches and I joined EO, you mentioned EO, Entrepreneur Organization, I had my founder circle that we would meet with every month. I discovered, wow, I'm not alone here. It is really hard to be an entrepreneur and build your own company and feel a part of your own company. Other people feel this way too. It's really hard to get negative criticism about being a leader when you're putting yourself out there. Brene Brown talks about that. If you're in the arena, people are going to throw tomatoes at you. And that's part of being in the arena, and just learning those things, and finding new circles of support around that, and also being more aware and conscious of my behavior and changing it, being accountable for it, and showing up as a leader that, doesn't make their team feel like they need to be best friends with me, which is now ridiculous for me to say, but it's really a stage in my leadership. I really felt that way. And now, and COVID really helped on this front. Actually, it was it was a further catalyst for my husband and I. We're at the stage after running the business for over 15 years. The company got to this size where running it day to day was not in alignment with who I am. I don't want to run a company this size. I don't want to be the main operator. Because I can't do it as well as other people who have a worldview, who have done this kind of thing before, can. And so we've spent a lot of time recruiting and developing a phenomenal leadership team that runs the business. And so my leadership is very different now. I meet with them twice a month. I do stuff like this. I spend a lot of time on kind of inspiring people and educating people about who we are. And that feels really good. And my husband and I have a lot more time together to be husband and wife versus just co-founders too, which has been really nice.
That's a huge transition. So it's from founder to CEO, and then to, almost like a chairperson role, or the idea that, maybe you're not in the day-to-day operations as much. And I just want to close here by going a little bit deeper into what you've built and the way you emphasize this idea of workplace awesomeness. I came across a video of you where you're talking about things to do to build a great culture. And, you basically say, you say three things. And the idea being, it starts with me, and I'm creating an environment where people can fail and they can mess up and they can do things, and that's okay. And I have clarity about who I am and who I am not. Can you expand a little bit on that and what those concepts mean to you and how you've incorporated them into the culture?
Yeah, I think I saw this woman, Frances Frey, speak, and she goes into companies and kind of consults with big companies around culture. And one of the things she said that really resonated with me is that, as a leader, the way to build trust with your team is to have high standards. High standards. If and only if, on the other end of that, you have equally high devotion to their success. High devotion, high standards. And that really lit me up, because I think over the years, like I would have high standards, but my devotion to the team wasn't as strong. I didn't figure out how to like have the right team in place and to really make sure that they were set up for success. Right. But even worse is I was so devoted to the team, I was lowering my standards to sort of meet them where they were. And I was lowering the standards of the company, which didn't feel good for the team in the end either. Right. I think all of us, when we show up to the workplace, we want to know I'm working for an aspirational company that's doing big things. And they chose me to do those big things. And I'm in this environment where in order to get there, I'm going to have to try something and fail fast, pick myself up, and they're going to give me the tools to do it better the next time. And I'm in an environment where within closed doors or in a more public setting, I can share when I failed or when things didn't go well and what I learned from it, because that's the culture. The culture is like, just like in a barre 3 class, if you choose to do a move that doesn't serve you and it's like giving you pain in your joints, like, maybe on all fours, you've got a knee injury and you're hurting your knee on all fours, waiting on the floor, recognize, oh, this isn't working for me. I'm going to modify. I'm going to stand up and do this at the bar instead to honor that pain in my knee, but still move my fitness forward. That's a real metaphor for being a leader. It's like, oh, this isn't working. This is causing a pain point for the company and for myself as a leader, but it doesn't mean I'm going to abort or numb myself or run from it or hide. I'm going to modify. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to figure out a new way to do it. I'm going to share that with the team, and together we'll move forward. And, that's basically the ethos of our whole company, that we talk about it a lot. And it's just, how we run things, and also with a clear operating plan and a clear vision. And I have really great, people that are around me that are very strategic that way, that can always, so everybody knows where they're going. That's been a big part of it too.
And tell me about the idea of, really getting clarity on who you are versus who you are not.
Mm-hmm. Well, tactically, I'm a big fan of bringing in consultants that this is what they do. They come in and they help unlock that for the team and for individual leaders. And there are all different levels of consultants for all different levels of team members and where you are in your season of being a professional. But one of my favorite things are like strength finder tests. We've done a lot over the years. The most recent one we did was with a consultant named Dan Cox, and he did the CVI, Core Values Index. There are 4 quadrants, and we all learned about like that and what it means to have your strength in one of the areas, and what the shadow side of that is, what the hard part, the part that you're always going to need to work on and be aware of. And that's so powerful to know about yourself. But I think even in a team setting, what's even more powerful is to have respect and understanding for other people's, where they are and where their strengths are. And so we're not projecting on other people and expecting everybody to kind of operate the same way we do as individuals. So big fan of that. That's really unlocked our company in so many ways during times when we're kind of having a hard time. Therapy, going to therapy on my own has been huge. Going to retreats, taking time to investigate myself in all different ways through movement, through thought leadership, being around other people who are going through similar journeys and sharing with them about that has been really helpful for me as a leader.
Fantastic. Well, Sadie Lincoln, thanks so much for being here. This is a really interesting conversation about the history of Barre 3 and the thoughtfulness and intention that you've put into building it. I can't wait to see how the company grows and evolves. And I also, by the way, I can't wait until we have one of these in Boulder. I have a lot of people who will enjoy one. I know that there's a few in the Denver area, but nothing up here in Boulder yet. So I'm sure that's on the map. But thanks so much for joining us and sharing all your wisdom today.
Thank you for this great podcast and community you've built. It's awesome.
Thank you.